You know what nobody tells you when you're broke? That saving $5,000 will teach you more about money than making $50,000 ever will. I know how that sounds. You're probably thinking, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Of course $50,000 matters more. It's literally 10 times the amount. And yeah, mathematically you're right. But psychologically, emotionally, that first 5 grand is where everything changes. And most people completely miss it. Because here's the thing. When you have nothing saved, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, when one car repair could ruin your month, money doesn't feel like a tool. It feels like survival. It feels like anxiety at 3 in the morning. It feels like checking your bank account and holding your breath. And in that state, saving feels impossible. Not just hard, impossible. Because you're not thinking about wealth or freedom or some dream retirement. You're thinking about next week. You're thinking about whether you can afford to get sick. You're thinking about what happens if your boss is in a bad mood on the wrong day. So when people talk about building wealth, about investing, about compound interest and retirement accounts, it all sounds like a different language. A language for people who already have money, for people who don't live in that constant low-grade panic. But that first $5,000, that's the moment the language starts to make sense. Here's what most people get wrong. They think the value of money is linear. 5,000 is good. 10,000 is twice as good. 50,000 is 10 times better. More money, more security, simple math. But that's not how it works in your brain. And it's definitely not how it works in your life. The jump from 0 to 5,000 isn't just about the number. It's about crossing a threshold. It's about proving to yourself that you can do something you didn't think was possible. It's about breaking the cycle of reaction, where every single dollar that comes in immediately goes back out, and entering a mode where you actually have choices. Think about what changes when you have $5,000 sitting in an account. Not invested, not doing anything fancy, just sitting there. Suddenly, when your check engine light comes on, you're annoyed, not terrified. When your hours get cut at work, you're concerned, not catastrophizing. When you see a coat on sale that you actually need, you can think about it like a normal person instead of running a full cost-benefit analysis in your head while standing in the store. You're not rich. You're not even comfortable yet, but you're no longer drowning. And that shift, from drowning to treading water, is bigger than the shift from treading water to swimming laps. Let me tell you what actually happens when you save your first $5,000. First, you realize you're capable of delayed gratification. I know that sounds obvious, but it's not. Most of us spend our entire lives being told we're bad with money, that we don't have discipline, that we should just stop buying coffee or whatever. And after a while, you start to believe it. You start to think you're just not the type of person who saves. But then you do it. You scrape together 100 here, 200 there. You skip things. You make uncomfortable choices. And slowly, almost painfully, that number grows. And somewhere along the way, you stop seeing yourself as someone who can't save money. You start seeing yourself as someone who is saving money. Present tense, active. That identity shift is everything. Second, you learn what your actual spending is. Not what you think it is. Not what you wish it was. What it actually is. Because when you're trying to save, you can't lie to yourself anymore. Every dollar you spend is a dollar that doesn't go into that account. So you start paying attention. You start seeing patterns. You start realizing that you're spending $60 a month on a subscription you forgot about, or that your occasional takeout is happening 4 times a week. You're not judging yourself. You're just seeing clearly for the first time. And clarity is the foundation of change. Third, and this is the big one, you start to feel what financial breathing room actually feels like. You're not imagining it anymore. You're not reading about it in some article. You're living it. And once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. You don't want to go back. That 5,000 becomes a floor, a line you don't want to cross. And that protective instinct, that desire to maintain the peace you've created, is more powerful than any budget or financial plan ever could be. Now here's where it gets interesting. Once you have 5,000 saved, the next 5,000 comes faster. Not because you're making more money. Not because saving suddenly got easier. But because you've already done the hard part. You've built the habits. You've shifted your identity. You've proven the concept. The first 5,000 is all psychological weight. The second 5,000 is just repetition. And that's why your first 50,000, when you eventually get there, won't feel as significant as that first 5. By the time you hit 50, you already know you're someone who saves. You already understand your spending. You've already experienced what security feels like. The number is bigger, sure, and it matters, But the transformation already happened. 50,000 doesn't change who you are. 5,000 does. So if you're sitting there right now with nothing saved, or a few $100 or maybe 1,000, and you're feeling like you're so far behind that it doesn't even matter, I need you to hear this. You're not behind. You're exactly where most people are. And the fact that you're even thinking about this, that you're watching this video, that you care, that already puts you ahead of where you were yesterday. Your goal isn't 50,000. Not yet. Your goal is 5. Just 5. That's the number that changes everything. That's the number that rewires your brain, that shifts your identity, that gives you the breathing room to start thinking differently about your entire life. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to save $1,000 a month. You just need to start. $100, 50, 20, whatever you can do without breaking yourself. Because once you prove to yourself that you can do it, that you're the kind of person who saves, who builds, who creates space between yourself and disaster, everything else becomes possible. The first 5,000 isn't about the money. It's about who you become along the way. And that version of you, that's the person who builds the next 5, and the next, and eventually, the 50. But it starts here, with 5.